Narendranath was at a threshold of doubts whether to continue his search to find answers about the eternal goal of life or give up himself to the world of mundane life, the world of materialistic nature, just as any ordinary man. He was also much wary, much concerned and worried about a world bereft of goodness, concerned of a world with degraded morals. And it is at that juncture that he came across with the then new nationalistic movement in Calcutta, known as the Sadharan Brahma Samaj, of which Sri Keshav Chandra Sen was its leader. Narendranath, though reluctant and hesitant at first, became a member of it and tried to follow its tenets or code of beliefs. In those days, he was also a popular participant in the social circles and parties of Calcutta. His brilliance in conversation, his skill in music, his jovial and light-hearted manners, above all, his imposing personality, they were all his plus points. They were to his credit in all such occasions. Of course, outwardly, he then looked much happier, much pleasant. But inwardly, his unconvinced intellect continued to disturb him. He often felt that everything around him was unreal. He was uncertain about which way to go. When Narendranath passed out of college, he was not quite sure what to do next in life. Of course, a common problem even today with the youths who come out of college with a degree, what to do next? But unlike these days, having a degree at hand was a quite different matter in those days. India was then a colonized nation under the British, and for an educated, that too with a degree, getting into any of the services offered by the British was not that difficult. Or one could even set up some business. Otherwise, could even step into the shoes of those who were engaged with the then ongoing reformation in the society in various parts of India. But Narendranath was a very sensitive person, and in the perspective of the events of that momentous times, he preferred to look within himself for better answers. He knew for certain that he could find a job and find himself a place among the elite of Calcutta, a place among the rich and the powerful. He was aware that he could amass wealth and also win much honor in life. But then he also knew there is no way to reach a higher goal of life. It was an age of reformation in India. People intensely questioned the popular beaten track of life. They re-examined the age-old traditions and philosophies in which the Indian minds were set. Having studied philosophy, history, culture, and modern science, Narendranath too was not far behind the trend, not far behind of others' views. He was aware of the different streams of thoughts. He was aware of the changing scenario of the modern world. He could visualize the emerging phase of a new era of modernity. But to him, they presented more questions than answers. He found there were this conflict of Western rationality and Indian spiritual wisdom. Of that would be a world of materialistic matters, and that of the old vanishing one that aspired a content living and a peaceful existence. In that state of dilemma, he searched again answers in the books. He started reading Herbert Spencer, Immanuel Kant, Schopenhauer. He went through even the old mystical and analytical speculation of Aristotle. He tried the philosophy, the positive philosophy of Comte and John Stuart Mill. He searched even the works of the natural poets like Shelley and William Wordsworth for a tangible solution. But strangely enough, he could not find any proposal that could help him in his quest. He found the reconciliation was still wanting. Narendra, at that state of a mind, grew very skeptical. And as his mind reasoned on, the whole spectrum of his understanding stood before him. He wanted to experience the deeper level of his being, his consciousness. He wanted to go beyond his body and mind. He then took to harsh austerities of life. Having food only to sustain himself, spending the otherwise busy days in silence, and awake full of nights without any sleep. If you look at his mental makeup at that stage, we would discover that there were two things that made Narendranath remarkable as a youth. Of course, these two aspects were there in him as a child. One, his endless questioning nature, and the other, his ability to lose himself in deep meditation. Questioning and reasoning are surprisingly upheld in the Indian tradition. So also the aspect of meditation. Question till your doubts are dispersed, till you get answers. On the other hand, meditation is good to arrive at answers to questions. Those are unanswered. It is said that even the soul or the self is revealed in meditation. Dhyanena Atmani Vindadi in Bhagavad Gita. Only one needs to properly understand how to get at meditation. Any pseudo attempt with meditation can cause more harm than good, perhaps. That is the reason that in good olden days, meditation without any spiritual follow-up, without the aspect of detachment, and without the preparation for a higher life was, in fact, not encouraged at all. It was then that he returned in his thoughts, pondering on the abyss of his lost childhood. He tried to recall everything that he heard and learned from different people. He remembered all that he learned in the lap of his mother. He remembered all that he learned sitting in front of his father, from society. Narendra certainly knew it was a spiritual quest. It was a spiritual quest that has been bellowing him from within. And probably he felt that famous dictum of Mr. Hamilton that a learned ignorance is the end of all philosophy and the beginning of religion. We come across a portrayal of this spiritual struggle in his one and only referential booklet on Sri Ramakrishna, by name My Master. I don't know how many of you can imagine about such moments in one's life. How many even can think of such a mental state? It would be certainly of rarity, because we are consumed with the all-powerful, overriding, external immensity of this mystical world. We are conceived beyond any reason of myth that this world is that all we need to know. And this world is all that to be gained. Everything is here and now. Swamiji realized by now that the fundamental ethos of religions were the same. But what he longed was the spiritual illumination. He was focused because he wanted to get it there. He was confused because if everyone was right, then why are these differences? And what should I follow? Narendra remembered that while he was in college, he had heard of Reverend William Haste, his principal, during a lecture of Wordsworth's poem, The Excursion. He, speaking of people's experience of trance, said that he only knew one person living with that state of mind, Sri Ramakrishna Dakshineshwar, who often had such experiences. Narendranath had also heard about Sri Ramakrishna from one of his relatives by the name Ramachandrananda, who used to visit Dakshineshwar often. By then, being in search of spiritual awakening, he used to ask whoever followed the path of religion and spirituality if they have seen God, including Sri Devendranath Tagore, who was living in a boat in the Ganges then. But he did not get a positive answer from anyone. It was then that Narendranath, along with a friend, happened to visit Dakshineshwar, which was a suburb of Calcutta then, and chanced to meet Sri Ramakrishna.